Hi everybody, welcome back to CouchBlab Podcast. I'm here with my two co-hosts.
I'm Hope.
I'm Ben.
And today's going to be the start of something new. We're going to talk about our first TV movie. This is High School Musical.
Come on now, Ben. You know what they say. We're all in this together.
Jesus Christ, it begins.
Critical blow.
Well,
by extension, this does technically count as a movie, so we decided, but it's also on television. So we basically decided, let's just kind of throw them together.
It's a TV movie. It totally counts because we said so.
yeah, we make the rules here.
Okay,
Yeah.
so for those of you, I guess the 6 people sitting in the room aren't aware, High School Musical is a very huge phenomenon on the ever-popular Disney Channel. You know, catering to all
was.
your tween needs. It was. Still is? I don't know.
It's dead now.
Aren't they having
I
a
think.
reunion?
They're having a reunion, so...
Yeah, but it's like a symbolic reunion, not like a movie thing. Like they're not gonna film it, are
I
they?
wouldn't be too quick to rush to that.
Oh,
It might
no.
come back at any point. So, but for those of you that aren't aware, High School Musical details the lives of Troy Bolton and Gabriela Montez. Troy is the hip, most popular male student at his high school, and he plays basketball, and he's the captain of the varsity team, cool guy. But then he realizes he also likes to sing, and so does Gabriella, who, even though she's a brainiac and she likes books and science and all that kind of shit, she basically also likes to sing, and they sign up to be in the theatrical performance together. And
I mean, so if you wanted to see teen stereotypes, or at least what corporate executives think teen stereotypes were back in 2006, and how they interacted with each other, this is it.
Yeah, basically.
this is the film for you, basically, if you're looking to kind of see a glimpse of, what executive meddling kind of thinks of as the standard teen demographic.
It's a live action TV movie directed specifically towards kids. Of course, it's going to just be full of cliches.
And
a
it's not
live-action
like-
Disney Channel product. I think
Yeah.
you know what you're getting into.
It's not even the worst of them, though. Like, it's certainly not that great, but it's no teen beach movie, that's for sure. Like,
Which is
that
why we're only
horrible
talking about
fucking
this
mess.
one, and we're probably not going to talk about the sequels ever.
Excuse you?
I'm
It was
not.
good.
Well, I'd certainly like to talk about Troy Bolton running across a mini golf course or golf course, whatever, and basically splashing the water and singing about his emotions. I'd be down for
Yeah,
that.
let's
any day of
just-
the week.
He just feels so much.
let's just stick to the first movie for right now.
So we
Right,
should
and-
stick to the status quo then, Ben?
Shut up. Anyway, so basically in this film, it caters to the lives of these teens and, this wide cast of characters like Sharpay, who is essentially the school queen bee who's like, I'm gonna win the show. And then everybody else that's basically trying to compete with them to show that they are the best of the performers. And a lot of it kind of goes in this pause.
Okay.
The story ends up kind of taking this Romeo and Juliet kind of path towards telling the story of, two basically, interested people who want to partake in the arts but come from completely different social backgrounds that don't clash.
But
with each
sadly,
other,
they don't kill each other
varsity
at the
team. Oh god, it would have been a lot better. But basically,
I mean, literally, though, the play that, Troy and Gabriella do try out for is Romeo and Juliet, though. Subtlety.
Isn't that the third one though?
I thought this was this one.
No, this one had a giant moon and they're singing songs, and it wasn't really anything. It was just kind of like a talent show.
It was
Yeah.
a talent? No, it's musical auditions.
Yeah, it's they're doing the auditions to get into the show, into the theater, because they're doing a performance. They never
All
really
right.
specifically say what it was. It's just they're in theater now and they're gonna do a show.
I guess
And-
it wasn't that important to the overall structure
Nothing
of
but
this
the songs
movie.
are
No, 'cause
important
we-
in this movie.
We have to take time away from plot and reasoning to talk about a girl that likes to pop and lock and jam and break, don't you understand?
Yeah,
So-
but see, you still remember that. This movie came out in 2006 and you still remember that shit.
I guess that's to its benefit and also its detriment because it's goofy, but it's goofy in a fun way. Like we mentioned before, this is probably one of the Disney Channel movies that have kind of stood, the test of time.
Again, it's because of a catchy soundtrack.
It's got a really...
That is literally the only reason people remember this movie.
Yeah, and you can find this soundtrack on basically every platform available, Spotify, iTunes, anything. It's an extremely well-known soundtrack, and a lot of people who had grown up from Generation Y and, the early millennials basically remember this film very fondly. For better or for worse, it's not exactly the best film out there, but it has its moments.
It's not the best anything out there.
Okay.
It's like a B. It's like a B. Like like if it had to have a grade, it's like a B.
More like a B minus.
Yeah.
That's a little bit too harsh. No.
But I will say, like, where, plot and kind of things fall down, some of our favorite things are some of the songs, and I would probably say, probably my favorite song would have to be the one where they're all playing basketball.
Get your head in the game, Tiff.
Where my favorite part is in the middle of the song when all these guys are doing weird neck movements and they're all dancing around him in this weird sequence. All of a sudden everything stops and then Troy just gets up and has like a soft
it's like a Saved by the
moment.
Bell moment where he freezes time and the lights shine down on him and he's like...
Yeah, and he's just like, should I go for it? Gotta shake this, yikes. And then it just continues, and we never talk about it again, and we just go back to Dreamboat Troy Bolton just dancing with basketballs, which leads to the confusion of why were they concerned about him being in music in the first place?
Because that's for girls.
Well, it's his like, they had a whole, like, plot with his dad that really wants him to go into sports. And he's just like, this is my life, Dad. I want to live my life the way I want to.
What are you gonna do with your life?
I forget the exact quote of what it was, but it was so ham-fisted.
I remember there's a sequence where he's talking with his, like, best friend.
Corbin
Blue, who is Chad Danforth, and they're talking about if you go into sports, you end up on, like, a cereal box, but if you go into musicals, you end up on, like, a magnet on the fridge, and how that's a huge, like, different factor as to which one was better. And even as a kid, I was like, I don't think I fully understand this.
Yeah, like, magnets last forever, but they change cereal boxes, like, every season, so it's like, I don't get it. Why is that better?
Also, what kind of theater performer gets a magnet? That doesn't even make sense, really, because
yeah.
It may or may not be a magnet. I haven't really fact-checked every single detail of this film. I did watch it.
Who cares? Again, the plot doesn't matter to this movie. It's the same thing like everything else. Boy meets girl. They find their thing that makes them similar. Then they fall in love. And with the soundtrack. There you go.
Yeah, going off the soundtrack, Ben, what would you say was probably your favorite song out of the soundtrack?
Every Sharpay and Ryan song. Because,
could you be specific?
What I've been looking for is probably the best song in the movie, and then Bop 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 to the Top is the other one.
It's just one bop to the top.
Mucho gusto. Ay, que fabulosa.
Tiff, as a Spanish person, how do you feel about these two pieces of white bread singing this Spanish song?
Well, if you have to ask, I remember seeing that as a kid, and, like, I grew up with Spanish parents, so, like, I have a distinction and understanding of how the Spanish language works. And so watching Mucho Gusto and Ay que fabulosa as a kid, I was just like, I don't think that's correct. And then I got older and I was like, nope, absolutely not. Not in the slightest.
It's probably about as right as Bart Simpson says, ay caramba.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, when you've been exposed to media enough, especially from such a young age, it doesn't bother me as much. I kind of just poke fun at, the misuse of the language in a better sense. But you could say the same thing for, like, if you watch, like, Japanese anime and you hear the characters speaking English. It's rough, so you're going to have to just kind of get used to it.
I'd have to say my favorite song, though, is definitely when they're all in the cafeteria and Troy brings up the fact that he wants to, maybe try out some musical stuff, something everyone may have wondered and never acted upon. And then they decide to break into this huge song, no, stick to the status quo.
Stick to the stuff,
which I'm sure, like any, like authority figure would absolutely love, in secret. And they all just kind of start dancing on all the tables and telling about things they like, to rebel against the status quo. I don't know. It's a good bop. Not bad.
Yeah, I remember the guy who was just like, I'm a skater dude, but I like to play the cello. And they were like, yeah, it's like a giant violin. And I was just like...
But, like, they can do both things. Like,
That's the point of the film. It's trying to teach kids that it's like, you're not allowed to just have one hobby. You can have multiple things in which you enjoy.
Yeah, it's funny. This whole school is a bunch of hypocrites. Because, like, they're like, Troy, you gotta stick with the one thing you know, which is basketball. And let us explain this while we break away from our stereotypes and sing along as well to explain this fact.
It's like in the second song when he's just like, well, I don't dance, I don't sing, and then the whole sequence is dancing and singing.
Arguably, like, High School Musical 2 really did step it up from High School Musical 1, but without 1, we wouldn't get 2, because that's how sequels work, I think.
Oh, well, I think in the case of High School Musical, and kind of bringing up, since we've been criticizing, how do the musicals work? How do they fit into the nature of the story? It seems like it's kind of taken the Chicago approach, where it's just like, you can kind of vaguely tell in a musical that that's not actually what's happening. In most cases, yes, they do break out into song, and they kind of just go off into their tangents, but it's supposed to give you the notion that the characters are discussing this, but they're doing it in a creative manner, which in a lot of cases can confuse people. Although I could be wrong, because they never do, like in Chicago, where they cut in and out of song sequences or change to a different thing. They kind of just start singing. So it doesn't really introduce that fact. That's kind of the perspective I've had it for a while, where it's like, oh, well, they're just kind of talking, but they're, finding a more interesting way to explain to you that they're talking by singing. But there's no way to confirm that, so I may or may not be bullshitting you.
Yeah, so what I essentially would say is music's alright, but if you're looking for plot, I would suggest find a different musical. Maybe one with a talking plan or something.
Well, I mean, I would say probably, a film like this, you're kind of watching it just for the sake of a popcorn value. You're not really looking for something too deep or massively meaningful. You're looking for a fun time. And
this is something you watch with your friends, drunk.
You crack open a beer.
Or like if you're a child, if you just like bad movies,
drunk.
You watch it with regular
Do not drink
regular beverages.
Pour a Shirley Temple with no alcohol and enjoy yourself. But
Make
God, what's wrong with
milk?
For starters, I don't need alcohol to make fun of this movie.
Yeah.
It does that on its own. But basically, it's definitely something that is worth checking out, because it's basically just going to be a few moments of your time. It is a TV movie, so it's not going to be as long as, an extensive, in-theater musical film. So it'll pretty much take up your time harmlessly. And, it does have a lot of endearing and fun characters outside of just Troy and Gabriella, who are basically the equivalent of stale toast, in my opinion. But you get, a joy out of, seeing Sharpay, who's...
They're all stale toast.
Well, there's ones that are less stale, and there's ones that are more
There
stale.
aren't any compelling characters here, though.
I don't know. I wouldn't say compelling, but you like them. I like Sharpay, and I like Ryan, and I like Chad, and I like the man that makes creme brulee. You remember the character.
You don't even remember his name.
I just know he makes creme brulee, and I was like, I like him. He's good. And I think that pretty much sums up the whole film, where it's like it doesn't have that much weight to it. But, it uses your time inoffensively, and basically, you'll have fun with it. You may or you may not like it. If you're probably somebody that is nostalgic for the film, or, you're familiar with this kind of format, like an Elvis beach flick is kind of the equivalent of this, or even just a campy musical, you might enjoy it. If you're looking for higher art, this is not what you're looking for.
His name was Zeke, by the way.
Oh, Zeke? Oh,
the creme brulee guy.
Well, along the sides of Chad and Ryan and Troy and Jack, I'm not really that interested.
They all sound like contestants on The Bachelorette.
Wait, do they all have 4-letter names?
That's
kind of cool.
A good number of them have 4-letter names. Some have 5.
Interesting.
Depends.
I wonder if they were more easily marketable that way.
It's a shorter...
Truly insidious.
It's a shorter name. Maybe it's just easier to remember. I don't know how a Disney exec works. They kind of just sit in their office and go, damn it, Johnson, what do the children like?
Yeah.
They slam on their mahogany tables and they're just like, what are kids like nowadays?
Am I out of touch? No, it's the children that are wrong.
You're out of time.
Basically. But,
There's an actual music reference.
Well, we're out of time, I think. I've said everything I could possibly say about this movie. Can't think of any more puns.
Yeah, it's fun.
Geez.
Check it out. And, you won't definitely have any problem, basically, finding this film anywhere. It's pretty much everywhere. You can get it online. You can get both a DVD and Blu-ray. They always release it. It's never gone back into the Disney vault or whatever, so you can pretty much find a copy of this anywhere. You could probably even find a copy with 1, 2, and 3 bundled in if you look hard enough.
Find it at the local bottom of the $5 bin at your local Walmart.
But we usually encourage people to go out and kind of look for, even if it's a cheap version of the film, if it's like $4 or $5 at the bottom of like a Walmart bin, just pick it up. At least now you have a physical copy where if your internet doesn't work, you have something to waste your time with. So
I mean, it's been like 11 years. You should be able to find it somewhere.
yeah, like you won't have a problem finding this movie.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Alright, that's basically all that we have to say for this film. If you want to check out more of our content, we have our Patreon set up, where we basically post extra clips and videos and different types of content. We have different series going on, including Girls Night Out, where we kind of look at media intended for little girls and women as well, and basically kind of mock and make fun, but also analyze and kind of see what exactly they were going for. And we also have our iTunes set up, our SoundCloud, our YouTube, and our Patreon again, and as well as our actual blog. So be sure to check us out, and thank you guys so much for coming by.
All right. Yep, we're breaking free. Bye.
Jesus Christ.
Bye.
Bye.